Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's Tips. My name is Michael. I'm a learning specialist here at Lehigh Carbon Community College, and today's topic is test taking tips, essays, short answers, true, false, matching. Oh my, a whole bunch of different strategies to deal with test taking that you might have coming up. Special shout out to Callie Clayton, who is in FYE, the first year experience, who helps sponsors and supports this video series. So as I mentioned, my name is Michael. I'm a learning specialist. I help students with a whole bunch of things as listed here. And I'm in educational support services. And part of Tuesday's tips is we give you a bunch of tips to be successful while you're here at LCCC. In this case, test taking, so you can be successful while you're here. Okay, we try to do that in 15 minutes or less. So let's get started. Here's our quick agenda for today. We're going to briefly look at various types of test questions and strategies for them, including true-false tips, matching tips, computational tips, aka math questions, right? Fill in the blank tips, short answer tips, essay question tips, but not multiple choice. That's another video. I already did a video on multiple choice, and that deserves plenty of time for itself too. And we're also not going to look at bow ties, matrices, and some others, right? We're going to look at the more popular ones, so you might have get exposed to. But if you're interested in learning more about bow ties, matrix, or others, reach out to me and we can talk about those things. Okay, true false tips. Read each statement carefully. Okay, you're going to rush through these sometimes, but you got to read them carefully. Note and underline keywords, right? But definitely look at absolute words. All, every, everyone, ever, none, nobody. These are likely to be false, right? Now, not always the case. They are likely to be false, right? So if I say all students love pizza, that's likely to be false, because I know a few people who don't, right? No qualifying words. Some, a few, sometimes, often, seldom, unusually, right? These are most likely to be true. More likely to be true, at least, right? Most students or many students like pizza. That's true. All students, false. Most, true. So watch out, those absolute words can kind of help you narrow down a little bit too. Watch out for things like double negatives. For example, driving over the speed limit is not illegal. In other words, driving over a speed limit is legal. That's false. Right? Now, please note here, a statement is only true if all parts of it are true. All parts of it are true. If any part of it's false, the whole statement is false. So, for example, Michael Spinks is a learning specialist at Harrisburg Area Community College. Michael Spinks is a learning specialist, but not at Harrisburg Area Community College. Michael Spinks is a learning specialist at Lehigh Carbon Community College. Hence, this is false. So you want to be objective when you answer. Don't think about what you want it to be true or false. Think about what it is, right? So you want to think about objectively. Don't think about how you want the world to be. Think about how it is. So for instance, I might say, I might be thinking about like many women experience sexism in the workplace. That is true, even though I might want that to be false, right? So that's one of the ways to kind of think about that too. Be objective, right? What does the data tell you that makes it true or false? Okay, matching tips. Okay, read the directions carefully. Is it one match or multiple ones? One match is usually how it goes, but occasionally you'll get multiple matches, and that really kind of mixes up the matching process, okay? Read all the answers first so you see what's available. You don't want to read an answer then match it instantly. You want to read all the answers to think about what's available to you. You want to cross off the answers when you use them. You don't reuse them. If there's only one match or if there's multiple matches, you want to watch it, can't do that too. Use a pencil if you can, if you're doing this on the test, physical test, right? But if you're doing it electronically, don't be afraid to reset it, because we're going to make mistakes here, right, too. Because these matching, or remember, is your ability to assess, your ability to recognize, recall, and connect information in terms. So the key about this is nuances matter, and questions will feel like they overlap. So you got to be careful. This is why you read all the answers first, right? You read everything that's available. Right. So for instance, if the question is used to search, if the one side is used to search the internet, and you have computer, browser, or Google Chrome, All those are in play, right? All those can be used to search the internet, but where do the other ones fall in that? So that's why you want to look at them all. Nuances matter in matching. Try to make the best match possible, not the fastest. Students often rush through these and they kick themselves after the fact. Okay, computation tips, math type of questions, right? Make sure you have a calculator that works and you know how to use it. It's really important, right? Write down formulas you were required to memorize. So as soon as the test starts, dump those formulas down on a sheet of paper, sometimes on the corner of the test. Write down variables in a formula, what they represent. Some ways that you can remember those things. Now, when you're reading a problem, highlight and circle important information. Make sure you define the variables, what's unknown, right? Think about what type of problem it is. Understand what type of problem it is, because you're not going to be tested on what something that wasn't part of the course, right? Students will very often look at a question and say, I have no idea how to do this. Well, what was the course about? These questions are going to look familiar to something you've done before. You're not being tested on, if you're in intermediate algebra, you're not going to be hit a calculus question, right? You've seen this before, but you need to calm your brain in a little bit so you can kind of process that, right? Plug in what you know. Sometimes you just want to start chugging away at it. Show your work every step, right? You really want to show that work every step. Your instructors want to give you partial credit sometimes, right? If they give you partial credit, they want to see your work. Be mindful of the negative signs, order of operations, fractions, and things people commonly forget. Even really strong math students forget those things, right? Check your work when you have extra time, including the stuff you stick in the calculator. It's amazing the number of times people can miscalculate things because they're rushing. Okay. But also use your number sense. When you look at the answer, use your number sense, and that's that internal sense of, yeah, this number feels right to me. So for instance, I calculated this car gets 245 miles per gallon. That's an awesome car, but mathematically that doesn't make sense, right? Reality-wise, doesn't make sense. 245 miles per gallon. This one tells me that, okay, I probably moved a decimal point somewhere. I screwed something up. And 24.5 miles a gallon makes a little more sense in my number sense. All right, so look at the number, make sure your sense is accurate, okay? Fill in the blank tips. Read each sentence carefully. Multiple blanks can signify more than one word is needed, but not all the case. Length of the blank can help you, but don't always assume that. Right? If blank has an which means the answer starts with a vowel, because these things are grammatically correct when you report the correct answer, right? Reread the sentence after you put your answer in. Answers needs to be grammatically correct, so you want to read it to see how it sounds. If it doesn't sound right, you're probably not putting in the right information. Now, also as a sidebar here, if you can't think of the exact term, give something. Oh, it's kind of like this, or it's around that, or I think it's like this. Maybe your professor will give you partial credit on this. You want to put something down. Don't leave blanks. Short answer tips. Before you begin, drop down your facts that you know about things. That you want to include. Prefer a rough outline, just some things you want to cover, right? Plan for ample time for all the answers you need. Okay, this is tricky because very often people will take a short answer and spend 30 minutes writing one response to one short answer when they have like 5 of them to do in 30 minutes. Okay, you kind of have to pace yourself out here. Right as the reader has no knowledge of the topic. Be thorough and clear. Show off what you know. That's one of the cool things about short answers. You can show off what you know. Right? If you don't know anything about it, just start writing. Sometimes that will start kicking in. Okay. Keep it simple. Use proper grammar and full sentences. Proofread for errors. Then look back, determine if your answer is logically and smoothly and your ideas flow well. Okay. But move on, right? You don't want to spend too much time on these short answers. Maybe they're only worth 6 points a piece. You want to spend some time on it, but don't want them consuming all your time for the test, right? Essay tips. Okay. Question for you. Read the question very carefully. Is it an essay or a paragraph, right? They're approached differently. And sometimes, we think automatically that's an essay or a paragraph, but read the question carefully or just ask your instructor, do you want me to really write an essay for this or do you just want paragraphs? Okay. Now, if it's an essay, that means specific things, right? Intro, thesis, body, and conclusion paragraphs, right? Okay. Now, don't start at the beginning. If you have to write an essay, right? Start with the thesis statement. And you can add others. You can add the introduction sentence later too, right? Go back and you can add it on, but start with your thesis, right? Now, to create your thesis, rephrase the question in form of a statement. That's a simple way to do it, right? Now, if you're writing a paragraph, that means topic, sentence, support, and wrap-up sentences, okay? Right? And now to create a topic sentence, let's rephrase the question into a statement. Okay. Now look for keywords that help you identify your approach. Every one of these questions have some type of keyword to it. They might be things like illustrate, compare, contrast, argue, define. Those types of keywords will tell you how you need to organize your thoughts and how to make your argument and how to make your statement, how to write your essay. One final note about this too, all those tips that we talked about for short answers also apply here too. So all those things we mentioned in the last slide also work for essays. All right, so my name is Michael. I'm a learning specialist here. One of the things that I do is I help students with test taking techniques, and that's one of the things I do. That's one of the reasons why we created this video. So hopefully you found this useful, but let us know what you thought. There's a link in the chat and in the description. You can let us know. In particular, like, hey, I like this video. Could you do a video on this? Or I didn't like this video. Could you do a video on this? This would be better. Let us know when you can. And thanks for joining us for Tuesday's Tips. Again, my name is Michael. I'm a learning specialist. Reach out if there's anything we can do for you, and we will see you next Tuesday.